I don't see it.
Call the meeting to order at 7:02. You're all rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There's a seat down here. We're in different places until we reorganize.
Oh, okay. All right.
We're not yet.
So I will announce the results of the election. Congratulations, Lisa and Jerry. Lisa received 79 votes, and Jerry received 98. There was 2 invalid write-ins. Unfortunately, they did not choose.
And I think 2 probably both would be yes.
So if I could have both of you guys raise your right hand and say for me. We both together at the same time. I, Gerald Hall, and I, Lisa Atkinson, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Michigan, the City Charter and Code of Ordinances of the City of Cedar Springs, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of Cedar Springs City Council member to the best of my ability. And if you could sign on. I will now open the floor for nominations for the mayor.
I would like to nominate Gerald Hall to be the mayor.
I would second.
Are there any other nominations for mayor? We'll now take a vote for the mayor for Mayor Hall. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Is that your official?
No.
Okay.
I didn't think it was fair for me to vote for myself.
Okay. Well, congratulations, Mayor Hall. I will now issue you your oath as mayor, and we'll turn the meeting over to you afterwards. Could rise one more time, please. I, Gerald Hall, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Michigan, the City Charter and Code of Ordinances of the City of Cedar Springs, and I will faithfully discharge the duties of mayor to the best of my ability.
I would.
The meeting is yours.
And I want to thank the board here for appointing people with confidence in me that I can do this again. So, at this time, I would take excuse me, nominations for Mayor Pro Tem from the floor.
I would like to nominate Pam Conley for mayor pro tem.
Any other nominees at this time? Hearing none, I'll close the nominations and we'll do a vote. All those in favor of appointing Mrs. Conley as Mayor Pro Tem signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, sign no. Congratulations.
I'd like to issue your oath as well.
Do you sign up?
If you could.
I guess you can't see me very well.
I, Pam Conley, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Michigan, the City Charter and Code of Ordinances of the City of Cedar Springs, and I will faithfully discharge the duties of Mayor Pro Tem to the best of my ability.
I will. Here. mayor's sidekick. Or some people have called us Batman and Robin. Told him I will be the Robin to his Batman as long as he wants me to. And you all agreed.
Thank you all for your trust in us. This time I'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Conlon?
Here.
Mr. Gross?
Here.
Mr. Hopkins?
Here.
Ms. Dixon?
Here.
Ms. Powell?
Here.
Ms. Ashton?
Here.
Ms. Hall? All present, 5-4. At this time, we have a presentation this evening from Mr. Minnie, Tom Claudia. And we have another one, the two will come forward, please. It's been a long time coming. I'd like to say a small something about association with the city. Continuing support of the library and the building and we have. Thanks for your leadership and dedication. Well, very happy to have our library.
Bravo.
Yeah.
We all want to get up and do like,
The whole family.
you're in your seat.
Not really, no.
We all move back to our other seats. Yeah.
Is Jerry going to reorder us?
Please rise. We have one of these this is for the whole family memory of mom and dad, for all their dedicated work. Each of you will family memories will have.
Oh my gosh, thank you. That was very generous. Thank you so
We made it, you know. So that's the least we could do, you know, put through the your brothers and your sister. Yeah, one for each. And we can either mail it to them or if you would like to, when you're seeing. From the city.
Actually, my brother's birthday is so we're going to be seeing
Yeah.
all of it the other day in November.
It means a lot to the community, you know. We have a world-class library now because of the generosity of people that continue to keep marching in the right direction to get this library. And we did well in the bottom both. And we were very happy about the library and Claudia and a lot of other people.
Yeah.
And stuff up the pillars of the community, you know, to look what we have. So I thank you all. Those who like it to leave, otherwise, you know, it's boring meetings. Oh, I'm fine.
We have house guests from out of state.
Yes, and so thank you very much for coming. You know, thank you all very much. Thanks very much. Yeah, I got in trouble one time. Kathy had her mom, I got police on her. Time ago. Long time ago. We grew up just down the road from each other. We had the only sidewalk in town.
It was a big sidewalk.
It was, too.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
so much. That was very thoughtful of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good question.
Thank you. I hope you enjoy them. It's just a small book of references and
Oh, that's very good.
beautiful library. We wouldn't have it if it wasn't for the
Like, this is like they said that we're kind of a lot. Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Mayor, you sit over here. Yep. That's how it works.
I was letting you bring it down for beer.
What do you want?
I think, are we all moving back to our seats?
I don't know. I was told to sit here, and that's all I know.
You have to do the gavel. Do you want me to the right or the left of you?
Somebody over there.
I'll go over there where I belong.
Okay, I can sit here and
Get
then.
in your place.
Get my feet. I need some. Sure. Thank you.
Howdy.
Hello. Our next up this evening is our Mrs. Hawkins. You have our auditor.
Mr. Doug Bredeveld is here with us tonight. We have a little PowerPoint presentation to go. He's not going to go through the audit that you have in front of you. That's what you said.
Limited reading.
Yes.
If you have any questions on certain pages in the audit, feel free to give me a call. I'd be glad to go through anything with you in more detail. He has kind of some high-level graphs to go through with you, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Visual aids are good.
That's right. Nobody likes numbers.
I wouldn't say that.
No red numbers.
No red in here.
No, right?
So overall, the audit went very good this year. It was Darla's first full year after last year. She had to scramble around trying to figure out what happened. But she was here.
I love the way you say that.
That's literally true.
I know.
But this was her first, she was here almost the whole year, but not quite, right? Through the end of June 30. So anyway, it went much smoother. There's still some lingering cleanups that she had to get taken care of. There's a lot of things going on in the city, which we just all heard about, the library building and the ongoing water and sewer projects that were pretty much wrapped up during the year. So after looking at all the numbers, all we do is issue a letter on the financial statements, and that's on page 1 of the book. And it says, in our opinion, the financial statements, right on the bottom paragraph, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the city. That's a good, clean opinion, certainly what you hope for when you have an audit done.
That was good to see.
Yes.
Yes. So, I know Darrell said you have to look at any place in the book, so you don't have to turn to any page if you don't want to, but on page, no, not in detail, but on page 27, there's one footnote where we're required to report budget overages. They're minor, there's just a couple of them, and they're explainable. They're small enough that we don't have to report them to the state, so you won't get a nasty letter from the state. So yeah, they've set up some more parameters, but we do have to still put them in the report. And then back on page 53, we also issue a report on compliance and internal controls over the financial reporting process. There is a finding reported here. Most of it, like I mentioned, was just some lingering cleanups that have to be taken care of. And we had to do quite a few, help with a lot of adjusting yet. I'm sure that's going to get cleaned up. Darla knows what she's doing. I don't want anybody to think she doesn't.
What would you say, probably another year, 2 years?
No, I think this is the next audit report. I'm highly confident.
Well, we understand.
Yeah, and there was some old bank account reconciliation problems that she had to dig back to try to figure out, and just trying to get everything buttoned up. So it's just a process.
Yeah,
a process.
Get it.
And it's going the right direction, so it's great. Okay, so I'll look at a few slides with some numbers. This is a new gizmo. No? Is that the right button?
You're not close enough. It's the two little ones at the side.
bushes, and we got close enough. Maybe you can step over here towards Rebecca.
Where's it reaching?
That was working for me earlier.
Yeah. Is there an on-off one?
Yeah, there is an
It's
on-off.
on.
I'm a behaviorist. I believe in positive reinforcement. And good audio-visual equipment. You can do it. We believe in you.
We just gotta talk about it. Okay, so the first couple of slides here, if you want to look in your book, it's pages, starts on page 10 of the audit. And these reflect page 10 and 11. These reflect the overall community on a full accrual basis for all the general fund, the street funds, capital projects, everything going on other than water and sewer basically is all included in these first couple slides. This slide shows the expenses, the dark blues matched up with the direct or program revenues that are applicable to each of the areas that the whole community or the city is broken down into various areas. So you can see the real message of the slide is the difference where the expenses exceed the revenues is where the property tax and state shared revenue pick up that slack. And you can see a couple there in streets and in culture and recreation where the revenues are way higher. And that's because in the culture and recreation area, for example, the library building, where there was a lot of money donated, about $1 million this year, was capitalized, so it's not expense. So it makes it look that way. And in the streets, that's because the Act 51 money this year exceeded the work that was done, so those fund balances have accumulated a little bit for future road projects, so that they can go either way. Yeah.
As we do already.
Then the next slide is just to give you a picture. Oh, we got range now. And this is just to give you a picture of where your money is coming from on a percentage scale. And it's really different than it was last year because a third of your money came from, it's called capital grants here, but it's capital grants and donations. So that's your library donations. There was about $1 million this year and about $600,000 last year that was donated. All that money was transferred to the library fund, so the donation fund is closed out, and the new library is built with that money. And you can see the property tax is about 37% normally. In a normal year, that's more in about 50 to 60% at least. And now we'll just focus strictly on the general fund and just some history of the general fund. This comes from page 14. For those of you following along. Then you can see the tax revenue. I have another slide for showing specific tax revenue, but it jumped in 2013 and then it fell, and it's just been kind of a steady increase. I'll talk more about this on the next slide. And the state, you can see, is just normal increases. The other includes, charges for services and fines and all that other kind of stuff, and so that fluctuates a little bit, but not a significant
Based on
sum.
your experience of looking at this throughout the state, do you think that's going to continue to climb?
The trend now is that it has been going up at all communities.
That was my question.
Yes. So the state shared, that gets shared equally, so it all depends on how the state's economy does. And property taxes, they're rebounding across the whole state after they took a big dive several years ago.
So not just a west side or a brick.
Well, we only operate on the west side, so
Okay.
we don't go to the east side of the state at all. But in our fine west half of the state.
Okay. Are the numbers, do you know if it's rebounding over there?
I do not. I don't. We have some friends from audit over there, but I don't know what they're doing. So this is more of a 10 or 11-year trend of your property tax revenues. And you can see it was the highest it's been in like 2010. And then it started a downward slump all the way to 2014, except for that weird spike there. And that 2013 year was the year when the LDFA was closed out, and all that excess money that was sitting there with no plans was transferred back to the communities and the school. So that's the city's piece of it. It gave you a big spike in your revenue. I had to go back and look, see what happened.
Would money be attached to the retirement fund?
This is the revenue side of it.
Right.
If I recall, it did get put into the pension plan,
Yeah.
or the pension plan back then to try to bolster it a little bit. Yeah.
To make us more solvent
Yeah.
on that,
Yeah.
legacy cost.
Yes. Yep. And then, this is the expenditures for just the general fund. And if you look on, this is just the actual expenses. They fluctuate year to year based on capital projects, and general government's down a little bit. I didn't go back and look at what that spike was in 2015, but you can see they fluctuate a little bit. But the important thing is if you look on page 37, this is the budget to actual page. The page 37, this is the general fund budget to actual. And you can see the change in fund balance for was budgeted to be a loss of 94,000. The actual numbers came in at a positive 129,000. So the expenses were less than anticipated. The revenues were more than anticipated. So just had a great year and added 129,000 to the general fund balance this year, which was 223,000 ahead of budget. So a really good year. And just to watch strictly just your total fund balance, you can see for the last 10 or 11 years there, it's been creeping up slowly. Now it's at about 72% of your expenditures and transfers. So it's a really, really good, strong fund balance. And you can see that spike again in 2013 where it makes this line look kind of wacky too. But you're at 72%. City Council has a policy in place that there has to be a minimum of 20% of unassigned fund balance, 20% of unassigned fund balance to expenditures. Right now you're at 47% for that particular ratio, so well ahead of your minimum requirement. And this is just a quick glimpse of the sewer fund. The bonds were fully drawn this year, and the sewer and water, and the projects were wrapped up as far as, there were probably some little things going on, I don't know, but this pretty much wrapped up. The sewer fund had losses, or near losses, for the last several years, and this year we started to see some turnaround there. The sewer fund has about $1 million in unrestricted net position, and also had a good positive cash flow this year, so that's looking in much better shape. And then the next one is the water fund. The same thing there. They've been, steadily positive for the change in net position for the last several years. I forgot to tell you what page number. It's 16 and 18 if you want to look. I have to look because I didn't write down where in the general, or the water fund.
Does that reflect the increase is that what we're seeing is the increase in the water rate?
It was my understanding that we had done that to cover our debt bill.
A piece of that was to cover the debt. A piece of it was we were just underwater on it. I mean, pun intended. We were just not meeting our expenses in addition to the.
Okay.
Right. You have to cover the expenses plus the principal portion on your debt is not an expense, but has to be covered by your cash flow. So you need to see some positive here to be able to cover your principal portion of the debt payment, as well as covering depreciation for future capital outlay and that kind of thing. That's all my pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really, really, really good year. We did issue a separate letter as well with some cleanup kinds of things, not to alarm anybody, but just some little things that are in process of being cleaned up, probably are cleaned up. I just wanted to call your attention to the third point on this, on the second page of that letter, regarding the purchasing policy. This is not something the city is doing wrong or has done wrong. It's something that's out there for the future. If there's any federal grants that you want to get, there's new requirements called the uniform guidance that have to be followed, and they require this certain purchasing policy with federal procurement requirements in it. So just
not that we're out of compliance.
correct.
Nothing.
Yep, just something that's out there that you want to be aware of.
I think that's on the agenda
Of course.
The other things are, housekeeping, cleanup things, and my guess is that they're already being done. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Sure. ICCF presentation regarding the vacant lot. This is concerning our three lots we own on Pine Street. We've been contacting the citizens to put some housing on. In our packet.
Hi, I'm Jan Vanderwoord. I'm the real estate development manager at ICCF, Inner City Christian Federation. This is Dakota Reel. She's a real estate development associate at ICCF as well. So thanks for having us. Appreciate the opportunity to present to you. I'm going to do sort of a flyover of the concept for Pine Street. And I'm going to do some intro about ICCF before we get there and talk about some of the work we've done in Cedar Springs thus far. So I think I did it right. I think I advanced it. There we go. So ICCF, Inner City Christian Federation, again, based in Grand Rapids, we're the oldest nonprofit affordable housing provider in the state of Michigan. Based in Grand Rapids, predominantly our footprint has been in southeast Grand Rapids, but we've expanded that over the years to Lowell, to Cedar Springs, to Wyoming, and we continue to explore various opportunities in West Michigan. I think this thing is rolling forward automatically, so I'll try to be quick. But our mission is equitable opportunity, affordable homes, and thriving neighborhoods, and we feel that affordable housing is a key component to strengthening any community, regardless of where you live, and it's sort of the basis for a healthy place to exist well. We work in West Michigan. We try to connect neighbors. We work around advocacy and housing justice issues as well, and providing opportunities for people to grow financially, and we feel like that starts with housing. I get verbose, so I know it's going to come. I'm going to keep having to click backward. Sorry. So some of the services that ICCF offers, we start sort of at people at their lowest and work with people all the way to completely thriving. We own and operate a family homeless shelter in Grand Rapids that has homes for 5 families. Emergency homeless shelters don't house families together. Kids were often broken apart from fathers and mothers when they become homeless, and we've owned and operated this homeless shelter for 25 years. We never, ever, ever have a vacancy because it's a huge need in our community, and 5 units is certainly about 500 too few, but it's helping people at their lowest point. And then from there, we have many other services we provide as well. We own and operate almost 200 rental units of affordable housing. We own some mixed use or mixed income housing as well, some commercial spaces. The core of the work that we've done, the founding of our organization is around home ownership, very similar to Habitat for Humanity. A member of a church in Grand Rapids donated a house to ICCF. We renovated it because she wanted it for someone who was low income to have an opportunity. And that person put sweat equity into that home and lived there for many years. And that was the beginning of sort of this growth of our organization. And in many ways, it's sort of a circular pattern for our organization and where we're at again now. We teach classes too. Dakota and I work in the real estate development side of our organization. We have a construction side. Some of you might have met Don Fredericks from ICCF, who helped build a bunch of houses in Cedar Springs I'll talk about in a minute. We're the bricks and sticks people. There's also a huge amount of staff. There's 30 people that work in helping people with financial literacy, budget, credit repair, home ownership training, and the like. And so people side of the work, and then also the actual physical buildings, which is more what we do. And slides don't work. There we go. I already kind of covered that. We are one of the only MSHDA, that's the State Housing Development Authority and HUD certified educators in this part of the state. So we teach a lot of people classes and provide a lot of services. That was some of our impact. We see 2,200 people a year at our organization. And some of them are certainly from the Cedar Springs area. And I'll dive into the work that we've done so far here. Without sort of giving away the addresses for the sake of people that live there now, we feel like we've had some really good successes in building affordable housing in your community already. Some of these houses might look familiar, one on Cedar, one on 6th Street, one on Maple. And these homes are modest homes, but they're beautiful homes. People love them when they have the opportunity to buy them. These are not rental housing units, these are ownership, home ownership units. And they're 1,300, 1,400 square foot homes that people get to buy at an affordable rate because of their income level. And the subsidy that makes that possible comes from the Kent County Community Development Department in the form of federal funding, which has impact in the discussion we're going to have today about Pine Street. But these homes, are homes to new immigrants. In one case, a family from Belmont that has kids, and another family from Cedar Springs that lived there and rented forever and decided that this was their only shot to buy a house, because who can buy a house in Cedar Springs for $123,000? That's in good shape. You can't. I follow the market in this area. It's not a cheap area to live. Cedar Springs is not cheap. And so for some folks, it's just you don't make enough money to be able to buy that $165,000, $180,000 home in Cedar Springs. And there's also not a ton of housing inventory that's being added that's affordable. So there's another one of the houses that we built. That one's on 6th Street. And then 262 East Ash. ICCF, and I think this is a good example of where we're at with this potential donation from the city. We just bought this lot, 262 Ash. It's near the end of Ash, that dead ends to the east. And that lot cost us $20,000. It was the only buildable lot on city water and sewer available in Cedar Springs. That's a lot of money up front that is moving towards the acquisition of the property when we have subsidizing dollars in that case from Kent County. We had program revenue of $100,000. Well, $20,000 of it's gone right there. It's going to be a great house. We're going to build a really cute house there, and we are going to have a line of people from Cedar Springs that are going to want to buy that house when it's done. It's going to look great. We're hopefully not going to cut down all the trees because that's going to cost a lot of money. But we got to figure out some water on the site, and we got to pull back a bunch of the tree canopy. And I'll tell you, when it's done, we're going to have a list of people that are going to say, please let this opportunity be my opportunity to buy a house in a really nice street. So that's what we've been doing. And in the process of talking about the lot on Ash, I started talking to the city manager here about this site and whether it had any public utility infrastructure investment that you guys have done, which you have in that area, which is a match, a requirement that we have with all this complicated federal money to build these houses. In that discussion, we talked about the possibility of these 3 lots on Pine. And so seed was planted, and I'm grateful for that, Mike. And as that happened, and I feel that this is beyond fortuitous and lucky, a request for proposals came out from the county for the first time in 3 years. It said, we have funding available to do affordable housing in Kent County, anywhere but Grand Rapids essentially, and who's up to apply for this money? And we applied, Dakota and I applied. Dakota did actually most of the work. And we applied for 4 homes. And one of those homes is a home in Wyoming that we own, that we're going to rehab and sell to a family that income qualifies. And the other 3 homes are the homes that we're proposing on Pine Street. We have a conditional commitment from the city, or from Kent County Community Development Department for $90,000 for each of the lots, for these specific lots. I know that might sound a little scary and a little cart before the horse, but when you apply for this, you have to show potential for site control, and our conversations were adequate for the county to review that and approve us to have this built. So showing you guys, I'm showing you pictures of your town. You know where this is better than I did. We drove by it today, and we've been by the site a number of times. 3 buildable lots in a row on Pine, and I find it so interesting that the space is open when north of Pine is so unbelievably developed already. The spot has such great potential. There's sidewalks. It's a connected area. You're so close to the White Pine Trail. You're a couple blocks from downtown. To me, it's like if you're a family that can afford 1 car, you've got a lot of opportunities to walk to stores and school. So we think these lots are great, and we have to build with these federal funds on city water and sewer. We cannot do septic. We cannot do well. And there are connection points along Pine, thankfully, where that's an option. So what we're proposing, and this is a sketch, and this is draft. This is not us saying we are ready to submit for permits today. This is a draft. These are the footprints of the 3 homes that we are interested in building and hope that you'd be willing to approve. They're modest homes. They're about 22 feet wide each. One of them might be about 30, the middle one. These lots are about 66 feet wide. So we're not taking up a ton of the lot. The gray stripe that comes down from Pine, that's a 10-foot wide driveway. And these homes we're proposing are, 1,300, 1,400 square feet. This is a design. So we get donated architecture services from a couple architects in Grand Rapids because we can't afford to buy the architecture, honestly. And this is a brand new one. We have not built this house in Cedar Springs. I will not lie, we have built a few of the houses that look the same in your town, and it's time to freshen it up. So this house, I think, feels very traditional in styling. It's a modest home, but it's a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath house. That's got a great porch. We're all about the porch if possible because we feel like it creates community when you have a porch next to someone else that has a porch. You also still have opportunity for a very great backyard. So you can still have your privacy. So that would be one of the outside lots that we propose building that home. And then the next one that will cooperate with me, there you go, is a bungalow in style, so different look, same general footprint. This one has a ground floor, a first floor bedroom. So this is, all of these homes will be built so that they can be accessible accessibility-wise to the first floor, but this one will actually have a first floor bedroom, which is helpful if you have a family member that has mobility impairments, disability, aged, can't do the stairs. So 2 bedrooms up and one on the main floor, and just a very traditional styled home. And the clicker says, there we go. A little different than the one on the outside, a little different roof line, but the same exact floor plan with this home. And the driveways lining up the way that we did is really around grading issues. There's some slope issues and some water issues there, so actually putting the 3 driveways on the inside would help with that a little bit and give the neighboring homes that are already there some buffer. So affordable home ownership on Pine Street, what does that mean? And we talk about this all the time, but I actually have really solid numbers because we've built a bunch of houses in your market very recently in the last 2 years. We estimate with the increase in construction costs, which is across West Michigan, it's really kind of dire how expensive home building is now, that we can build these houses for $165,000 to $175,000. That's just construction costs. That's the bricks and sticks, that's the foundation, that's the driveway, that's what we think we can build this thing for. That's before any soft costs. Traditionally, a lot purchase, that's a soft cost. Surveys, all that stuff, those are all soft costs, the closing costs. So the opportunity for a donation of this lot balances this budget out quite drastically, which is really positive. We do have that $90,000 per house commitment from the county. It's not an absolute guarantee, but they've said we conditionally commit this funding to you, and our experience so far has been pretty great with that. So, and then we think the homes will appraise for $130,000 to $145,000. The $90,000 that comes from the county, the majority of it goes to cover construction costs, but a portion of it goes to buy down that number to a level that's more affordable to a household that income qualifies. And so this is where I'm going to dive deep into numbers, and I would love if you ask questions if it's not making sense, because we get people saying all the time, come on, what is a really affordable housing? What are we talking about here? On the right is 80% of the area median income for all of Kent County. Every year, HUD comes out with these statistics for every county in the country. And this is our current setup. So if you buy one of these homes, and you're a 5-person household, you can't make $1 more than $57,360 gross. You can't qualify for this house. But if you make $1 under, you have a great opportunity because you're going to be able to buy a house that's around $125,000. If you stack up principal and interest and taxes and insurance, and I'm assuming that most of you are homeowners, $125,000, that's cheaper than your rent. If you have a 3-bedroom rental, I'll bet you anything that's cheaper than your rent. So this is an opportunity for you as a family to build equity, to build generational wealth for your kids. And it really is, I still believe, I know that the housing crisis isn't too far in the rearview mirror, but I still think that this is the majority of the way that middle-class Americans make generational wealth happen for their kids. It's by owning a house. It's by not paying rent to somebody else. It also changes the way that you interact at school. Statistics say home ownership has a lot of positive impacts on you and your kids. And so we're all about it. And so, it's not fair because if the family of 6 makes $63,000, they can't buy this house, but they might be able to get a market rate house because they kind of are in that bracket. So what happens here, if the home appraises for $140,000, we're going to sell it for what is an affordable rate. So we're going to knock down $15,000 using that $90,000 to make the house affordable. And that household that's going to buy that home has to income qualify first, has to go through first-time homebuyer training with us or whoever they can find to do that with. We're happy to do that for them. And they have to get regular financing. We're not Habitat for Humanity. Habitat for Humanity, you get a 0% interest loan. You have to put 150 hours in building the house. It's a beautiful program. We don't have access to that program. Our program is very different. So you're buying a house, fee simple, in a different structure. But I'll tell you, the way that this whole thing balances out budget-wise is that Kent County Home has a huge subsidy that we were able to procure, and saving $20,000 per lot by having a donated lot means that all that money gets to go into the houses. So we have cost controls on the development fee or the fees that pay for Don Fredericks, our builder on staff, his staff time, his site supervision, that's fixed. So the money goes into the home, and we feel like it's a really great partnership. I don't know, I risk quoting your master plan, your strategic plan, but it hits it on the head in a number of ways. This is providing diverse housing and reactivating sites and building new single-family home, and we feel like the character of the home aligns with the traditional character of Cedar Springs. We're not building modular cubes and modern boxes here. We're building houses that look kind of old school, right?
Our houses are old.
And that's great. You know, my house is really old. Yeah. And in some cases, modern works, but I feel like in a community like this, it's better to just kind of go to vernacular architecture. Yeah. So it's housing diversity for your community. It provides affordable housing with an investment of a lot for you, and you're going to get these sites. We would commit wholeheartedly to doing nothing but building affordable housing on these lots. If something happened where we were not able to keep that city and county funding, the lots are not ours; they're your lots. So this is a promise that this is affordable housing and it's sold to your community.
I think that's been our intent all along, is to find some organization to take these lots and improve them and build on them. So I guess our next step would be, I'm not sure.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, please.
Just to clarify, and I'm going to assume that this is true because you're getting covered dollars, but you don't discriminate.
We do not discriminate against any classification in any regard. So race,
as a Christian
religion.
organization, they
Right.
don't have to be a Christian.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
We can't even proselytize to anyone, and we
Right.
don't.
As a private organization, in theory,
Yep.
they could if they weren't taking covered dollars.
Yeah. We don't. So I would say that race, religion, any protected class is certainly something that we respect, and our message is about, building your economic capacity as an individual and having an opportunity to thrive. It's there's no what you classify as traditional sort of mission work or our organization. The only area where we do have to be discriminating is around income.
Sure.
You cannot be a high-income earner and have access to this. And I'll tell you that, that's a lot of benefit for one family to get that much benefit out of a public resource. There is a lien or a second mortgage tied to those federal funds that all counties that allocate this money have to abide by. So you can't flip the house and take the money and run with it, basically. It's tied to the property for a number of years. And as you stay, which is the plan, that you're using this as a resource for the long term, that you end up getting the benefit of if you stay like the 20-year period. Otherwise, it gets paid back. So it's controlled in that regard.
And just to clarify, you said the ground level is going to be barrier free?
So The ground floor of all 3 buildings will be barrier-free. The middle building, we're planning right now that it will be, it'll even have a bedroom. So barrier-free, typically when we do type A and type B, or there's various classifications of barrier-free, but you'll have full wheelchair accessibility on the main floor through the back of the house. So, we've got multiple steps up to a front porch, but the back area off the driveway will have a spur, essentially a sidewalk off of the driveway that can lead up to barrier-free access to the whole main floor, which has a full-size bathroom.
No, one of them's gonna have
A bedroom.
living quarters.
A living quarters on the, our current plan is that only one of them has living quarters on the main floor. The other 2 outside houses have 3 bedrooms upstairs each. The whole main floor is used for living space.
I know that's another thing that's in their master plan, is try to have more housing that seniors can live in and
Yep.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Most of them can't climb stairs to get to the second level.
True. Yeah, and I would say that the architecture that we have now is very easily modified if that's a qualification or condition that the city wants to move forward on, is having, honestly, a lot of these floor plans that we can get access to have first or main floor bedrooms, but a lot of the more current models have all the bedrooms upstairs, so they can have open living space on the first floor. It just limits your amount of living space on the first floor. But it can definitely be done if that's a condition.
I know that was one of the holdups with ones that was wanting to.
Yeah, that was
have
before
that
though.
before.
We've added 2 assisted living facilities since then. I mean, if you think about the Brooks, that's not quite finished yet, and then the one that's at Steve Horway. Yeah. So we've I feel like we've met that.
Yeah, but you just don't have the option of owning it, or being a family-owned thing. They're,
That's something they have to look
Yeah.
at down the road, and I'm
Okay.
sure your architects are well aware of what the needs are, and I think we would listen to them.
Great. Yeah, we can fine tune the
And one
design.
more question, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind.
Go ahead and make brief.
So if the people buy it, and then they were to default, like they were to stop making payments, who owns it?
The first mortgager, so the bank, let's say it's Chase Bank, let's say they have a mortgage through Chase Bank, they'll have first lien position. If they default on their first mortgage, the bank will foreclose them just like any other house. So there will be a default on that second lien, which is the funding that the county has given, that's federal dollars. That property is owned by Chase Bank because they're in second position. It's just like a standard
And then
ownership
Chase would
format.
resell it just like any
Yep. I'll tell you though,
foreclosed home.
the difference with our format, not that we're babysitting anything, but we're giving opportunities for people because we're working with them through homeownership education and budgeting. They come to us and say, I'm going to default on my mortgage. We're going to say, well, let's figure this out and figure out a way to either get you a loan modification or, help you with budgeting. A lot of times these things are solvable unless you've lost 100% of your income.
My concern was more that the city didn't own it again.
Nope.
That was more my.
Honestly,
wants it back.
Right.
We pay property tax on it now, and we want to.
Gone.
got it.
Mr. Lomax, are there any questions or concerns we need to?
No, the only thing I don't like is that it's income restricted, because I think these houses are adorable, and I'd
Well, they
purchase
are.
one if I could.
We can cut your pay.
you volunteer like the rest of us.
If we put a bunch of this pay in escrow for
See
the
the
year,
light.
then we go.
No, I asked Mr. Ward,
Very Dutch, yes, Van der Wart, sorry.
I asked him to come in and speak with you guys, because I felt we've discussed this multiple times in the past, and I thought you guys should get a better feeling for what is being proposed. I think with your assent, I will continue to work with them. We'll present a full package to you guys when ready. And then this board can decide to donate that property and any other thing that I bring along with that. And then we'll donate the property to them, and they will move forward with the plans.
How do you feel about that, Ms. Atkins? It's right in your neighborhood.
Yeah, it's pretty excellent.
You agree
Well,
with
if
that?
they're actually gonna be worth more than my house is, so.
So, any consensus is you move on it, Mr. Rhodes?
Yes.
Ms. Conlon?
Yeah, absolutely. Although I have to say, it is heartening to hear what the property values are, because I can tell you in 1999, I did not pay that.
So I think in general, you're okay with moving forward, so let's move forward.
Okay. So I guess we'll keep in touch.
Sounds
Thank
great.
you for your presentation.
Thank you for having us, appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you, Coco,
Coco.
for all the work you did.
She's the brains behind it. You got it. It's obvious, I can tell, yeah.
And we will not be offended if you.
No, if you wish to leave, that would be okay.
Yes, you don't need to stay. You're welcome to
Thank
stay,
you.
but you don't.
Appreciate
The
it.
roads are gonna get bad tonight, so
Yeah.
drive safe.
Thank you.
Item 3, moving on, we don't have public comment at this portion of the meeting. The council welcomes and encourages the public to speak during the public comment of the public hearing portion of the agenda. However, council's policy is to hear the public comment, not to act on the public comment at this time. Concerns brought before the council during the public comment portion of the agenda will be referred to the city manager for action if, after communication with the city manager, no resolution is reached, the concern will be elevated to the mayor and then eventually to the council for action. Those citizens wishing to speak on agenda or non-agenda items will be allowed a maximum of 4 minutes each to address their concerns. This is the only time during the council comment, the council meeting, the citizens are allowed to address the council. Please state your name and address for the record. Is there anyone at this time wishing to address the council? Hearing and seeing none. We have no public hearings tonight. We have number 5, adoption of the agenda. Is there any changes, added, or resubmission?
Actually, we were going to talk about possibly seeing the council with turn lights on a week early to make sure that they were all working before Christmas period.
Oh, we could add that in discussion items, I guess. Where would the council, we would like to ask the council's permission to run up the light bill a little higher for the Christmas decorations. I mean, how's that? Anybody?
Sounds like a good idea.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll put it in discussion.
Sounds more like the better right now.
Mr. Hall, I don't know if we need to add an item, but I did present a new map to you guys as part of the DDA discussion.
That was my next one. We had to add the map for discussion for the new DDA project. And I think that would go hand in hand with the DDA resolution.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be added, just want you to be aware of it.
All right, at this time, what's the will of the council adopt an agenda?
I would make a motion to adopt the agenda with the addition of discussion regarding the Christmas lights. That doesn't need to be an action item.
Discussion.
Right, but under, it'd be discussion item H.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, sign no. Adoption of the agenda is done. Number 6, consent agenda. We have several items. Mr. Womack, you want to address anything? Any of the council people have any questions or concerns on any of the consent agenda items?
No, we generally put items on the consent agenda if we don't think they'll generate any discussion. Of course, that's been proven wrong in the past.
What's the will of the council to approve the consent agenda?
So,
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Seeing how there's money involved, like a roll call vote. As I find my green list here. Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes?
yes.
Mr. Hopkins?
Yes.
Ms. Nixon?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes.
Ms. Action?
Yes.
Ms. Hall votes yes, motion carries. Consent agenda is approved. Moving on to action items. A, motion to approve or deny resolution 2017-21, resolution for adoption of the recommendation of the Cedar Springs local officers' compensation. What's the will of the council? Mr. Womack, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, if I could, just briefly, maybe the clerk can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but reading through the resolution, it appears that the decision of the LOCC will stand unless this body votes to reject it by a 2/3 vote. So we did meet with the local officers compensation committee, and they recommended a fee increase for this body of $100 each. Madam Clerk, is that $1,100 per council person and $13 for the mayor?
I believe it's 14.
Yes.
14 and
Went
12.
from 11 to 12.
And it's also my understanding that this body has rejected that every year since 2005.
Yeah.
But, so if this body would like it to stand, they can either not hold the vote or vote to adopt, or if they'd like to reject, they can vote to reject with 2/3 of the vote.
What's the will of the council?
I would like to make a motion to thank the local officers compensation committee, but reject their recommendation.
Motion to reject.
Carrie, you second.
Any further discussion? Is the motion to reject our pay rate? Seeing that big money here now, I'll do a roll call vote.
I mean, I feel like the amount for the city, for the $7 that $700 would be nice.
That's nice flowers somewhere.
Yeah. Well, not I'm saying, but it's money that stays in the budget. That isn't coming to us.
But it's a wage that we cannot take from somebody to designate to.
No, I don't mean designate. I just mean, I feel like it's money that the city could use.
Okay. I'm gonna call for the question, so. Mr. Conlon?
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes?
Yes.
Mr. Hopkins?
Yes.
Ms. Nixon?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes.
Ms. Knight?
Yes.
Paul votes yes. Motion carried. We don't get paid.
We get paid. We still get paid more.
And for what it's worth, the local officers committee did make a second motion. Thank you for your service, and suggested that they thought you deserved way more money than they were proposing, so that's what we proposed. So thank you.
Thank you. Let them know we appreciate their time and effort and their generosity, but I think the money should be better spent for the community and not us. I'm in it for the money, but I'm not in it for it. Moving on, item B.
Sorry.
Item B, Mr. Womack.
So, I guess it looks like we have a motion to set a public hearing to amend the EDA and tax and financing plan. And it looks like C will be your first reading, so I guess I would ask for a motion to set that public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I will make a motion to set a public hearing to amend the development tax increment plan and financing plan as proposed in the ordinances for December 14th at 7 p.m.
Second. Hopkins, second. Been moved and seconded to set a public hearing for the tax increment plan, finance plan,
What I said.
yes. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, sign no. Motion carried. Thank you. We have a hearing date set for December 14th.
Which I believe coincides with the next regular meeting.
Yes.
So the EDA TIP ordinance, first reading. This is what I spent the majority of my free time on over the last month. It's a pretty complicated document. It largely reflects the 2006 plan. We had to rejigger a lot of the numbers and how we do things. The EDA has been unfunded, I believe, since 2007, 2008. And with this plan, we believe that they will receive approximately $20,000 next year. And as you can see through the 20-year estimation, which is a very conservative estimation, they're looking at, I think, approximately $1.4 million over that period of time, which I think would be very well spent here in the downtown district. So I would ask you to read this the first time, and we will go over it again in December.
Thank you for all your hard work on that, Mr. Manager. I know that has been just a ridiculous amount of work.
I feel bad I didn't have more for you guys to do today. I do have a number of ordinances that I'm going to be planning commission that will eventually come to you guys, and that's